going to an event at the Heritage Bank Arena. Make sure you're stopping by and seeing our good friends at the Holy Grail. They are the #1 sports bar in the city for a reason. Great food, great drinks, and remember, every Cincy Light purchased at the Holy Grail, they will donate an additional 50 cents into the Cincy Reigns Collective, supporting the athletes at the University of Cincinnati. All right, let's get this show on the road. It's been another hectic day in the Brindle household. I can't wait for school to start, Dave, so we can stop this volleyball merry-go-round that we've been on. Sometimes they practice at 8 in the morning. Sometimes they practice until 8 at night. Like, just give me a set schedule and I'll be happy. But
absolutely.
How have you been, Dave? How's life?
Life is good. I'm ready for football.
Yeah, it's almost here. It was fun getting to talk about Bengals camp opening today, filling in for Mo. And 1 week from today, we'll be talking about the first Bearcats practice of camp as well. But today, we've got a guest. Jeremy Clark joins us, a member of the 24/7 Sports Network, covering TCU. Jeremy, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. I'm listening to you talk about volleyball and daughter, and I'm taken back down memory lane because my daughter was a volleyball player all the way from 6. She graduated a few years ago. We did the whole club volleyball thing. So,
oh yeah,
I feel you, brother. I feel you.
Hopefully, we just got done. Club tryouts were a week ago, and then club tryouts were a week ago. High school tryouts were this week. She made the team. Practice started today, so we're full steam ahead. It's 12 months a year. It does not stop. It is relentless, Jeremy, as you know.
All the time.
David, you do your thing.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us. Starting where we kind of do with all of these is quarterback. Josh Hoover kind of came in midway through the season last year as the starter. Had for a midway starter, had a pretty good year, all things considered. Kind of describe his game a bit, because without UC playing TCU last year and him coming in the middle of the season, I'm not sure how familiar our fans are with what he did in the back half of the year. So his game and kind of what you're looking for, what him and the coaching staff have been talking about regarding improvements over the spring, and then as we all head into getting ready for the season.
Yeah, I think Josh has a really bright future ahead of him. As you mentioned, he came in the latter half of the season, 6 games, started the final 6 games. I mean, his first start, goes out there and throws for 439 against BYU. The Frogs row 44-11. Everyone thinks, man, they've got this Heisman Trophy candidate quarterback. And then the next week, everyone wanted to see how he'd travel and go up to Kansas State, because Manhattan's a very tough place to play, which you guys will figure out pretty soon, being in the conference now. But he didn't do so well. And games against Texas and Texas Tech, he threw better, threw for over 300 yards, threw for over 400 yards against Baylor in a 42-17 win. And then the final game of the year, he threw for 353, I think it was, against OU. So he did have some crucial turnovers. That game against Texas, he threw a last interception at the end of the first half, which led to points, which was the difference maker in that game. He struggled mightily against Kansas State, had some crucial plays against Texas Tech. So there's a lot of optimism, but there also is some hesitation a little bit. I think when you look at Josh, he's only started 6 games, and he's got a bright future. He's adapted well to this offense that Kendall Browse has brought. We didn't see Browse is typically a coach that recruits guys that are mobile, that can utilize their legs a whole lot. And Josh, as a high school quarterback, really wasn't that mobile, but he kind of transformed his body once he got to TCU, lost 25 pounds, became more mobile. He can use his feet a little bit better now. He's a guy that can go out there and throw the football 40 to 50 times a game. If that's what kind of offense they have to have, that's what they're going to utilize him doing. And the bad thing about it was this past spring, he didn't attend spring camp. He didn't participate in it. He had a minor back surgery that he had to get performed on him, and obviously missing time in spring camp when you only have 6 starts under your belt is not something that is really highly thought of, but he went back in early June, started throwing again. And from all indications I've received, he's looked really good in the summer so far, and he's going to head into fall camp when they start next week as the guy. So there's a lot of high expectations for him right now, and I think he's one of those guys that just takes it all in. He's a great leader. He's a guy that goes into the film room every day of the week. Every time he has extra amount of time, he's going to spend it in the film room. The players, his teammates love him. So when you're looking at all the essential things that you want in your quarterback, he's got those things. He's got those qualities. And again, I just feel like he really has a bright future ahead of him.
Staying on the offensive side, 1,000-yard rusher Monty Bailey declared early, went pro. Who do you expect to kind of take over as the lead back? And how has the run game looked in a Kendall Briles, Dykes type of offense?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing with Kendall. He wants to run the football. When you look at what he did at Arkansas had the 7th leading rushing attack in college football, and that was playing against the SEC. So, that was a pretty successful program he was able to, utilize as an offensive coordinator over there for the Razorbacks. But Monty Bailey was a big loss for the Frogs. He's a 1,200-yard rusher. I think he finished 4th in the Big 12 last year, 100 yards a game. And if you look at the roster right now, there's not a ton of experience. They have Trey Sanders coming back. He's a guy that played at Alabama before transferring to TCU last year. He's more of a short yardage back, bigger guy, 6 foot, 225 pounds. But the guy that I would tell everyone to keep an eye on, and it's really no longer becoming a secret because Sonny Dykes has been talking a lot about him too, is Cam Cook. Cam Cook was a former 4-star running back, one of the highest rated running backs in the nation out of the 23 class. He didn't get a lot of carries last year as a true freshman, of course, playing behind Amani and some other guys that were able to carry the football. He only had 16 carries. So the lack of experience is kind of concerning. But if you look at what he was able to accomplish in the spring, he's about 195, 200 pounds. He's a versatile back. He can run the football. He can catch the football. But what I was really impressed with him during the spring was just his pass protection. And he was able to make big plays, running the football, catching the football. He's got breakaway speed. He's a guy that has been successful ever since he was in high school, making plays either in the run game or the receiving game. So I really feel like he's a perfect fit for that offense. Cam Cook is a guy that I feel like he's not officially penciled in as the starter right now. He got most of the reps in the spring as the starter, but I would bet my mortgage that guy's going to be carrying the load against Stanford, and he'll get the first carry. And I think he's really going to be the guy that people are going to be talking about for TCU's offense once we get toward the end of the season.
How much is your mortgage? We got to know how confident you are.
It's high enough. It's high enough.
Offensive line
relate.
Yeah, everybody at this point. Offensive line replacing 4 starters. Level of concern going into the season, or is this a spot that you feel good because they either brought in a lot of veterans from the portal or had some ready-made guys ready to step up? When you hear 4 offensive linemen leaving, instantly you think, but that doesn't necessarily always mean the case.
Right. Losing Andrew Coker and Brandon Coleman were 2 big losses. Both those guys are in NFL camps right now. That's the biggest concern for me. Quite honestly, the offensive line up front's the biggest concern for me because, like you said, you're replacing 4 guys. It's tough when you have 5 new guys trying to develop a chemistry in such a short amount of time. James Brockemeyer arrived over the summer. He's probably going to battle for that starting center position, and I really feel like he's going to end up winning that position. They have guys that kind of played together in the spring with Bless Harris and Carson Bruno, but Cade Bennett's another kid that arrived in the summer, played a ton of football at San Diego State. And the bright side of this offensive line, fellas, to me, is the fact that they've played a lot of college football. And that's one thing that Sonny Dykes and his staff really made an emphasis on when they went and attacked the transfer portal. We're not just going to look for the guys that have Alabama across their chest or LSU on their helmet or Texas on their helmet. They're going to look for guys that have played a lot of quality football, a lot of college snaps. Carson Bruno was a 2-year starter all-conference player at Louisiana Tech, has over 26 starts in his career. Cade Bennett has over 20 starts. Bless Harris has a ton of starts. He started, I believe, 12 games at Florida State. He's probably going to battle for that left tackle spot for them. Mike Nichols is really the guy that's returning for TCU that all the TCU fans know. He's kind of been, I don't want to say hit or miss, because I don't want to speak poorly of how good I think he can be, but he's a guy that's battled injuries through his career. He's appeared in 25 games, and just about the time you think he's going to have a breakout year, something happens. Last year, he played a lot behind Andrew Coker, so I think you have that experience that they're going to rely on up front. But Cade Bennett, Carson Bruno, I think those guys are tremendous upgrades on the interior. And Colton Deary, I mean, he's a guy that played some left guard, some center, and really I feel like he's going to be the guy that's going to be the sixth guy. They want to really form an offensive line rotation that's 8 or 9 deep, just like every other college football team in America. A.J. Rickard, their offensive line coach, speaks really highly of Deary. He's a guy that played at Maryland as a true freshman, came over to TCU last year, appeared in all 12 games, and really is versatile to play either that guard or center position. And really, I feel like when those guys need a break up front, he's going to be the guy that could come in and slide in and at left guard or right guard or even at center. But the chemistry right now is going to be something I'm going to watch a lot during fall camp, how well they play together. We saw some signs of it in spring camp that they can create running lanes. Cam Cook, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, made some big plays. They opened lanes for other running backs. The one thing I really was impressed with during spring camp is the protection they gave Ken Sills and Haas Haney. As I mentioned, Josh Hoover did not go through spring camp. So they were very limited at quarterback. Only 2 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster went through spring camp, and they did a great job protecting those guys. So their silver lining, although you did lose a lot of production, a lot of starters, there is a silver lining with the guys they have coming in just based on the amount of college football that they've played.
A lot of those guys you mentioned, I know, are portal additions, but like with the portal being such a big part of pretty much almost all teams now, outside of the offensive line guys that most fans won't notice on the day-to-day, if they're not, especially if they're not TCU fans, who are a couple guys, maybe offense or defense, that Sonny brought in from the portal that you guys are expecting to make pretty instant impacts?
Well, I think if you look at offense first, you got to look at Eric McAllister. Eric McAllister, the big-time receiver out of Boise State, decided to come back home. He's a local kid, lived only about 25 minutes from TCU. Didn't really get recruited by TCU coming out of high school, which was surprising. He was a very, very productive receiver out of Azle, Texas. But he when he entered the portal last year, 9 games into the season, at that point when he entered the portal, he was, I believe, 6th or 7th in the nation in receiving yardage. So he was a very productive receiver. He's 6'3", about 200 pounds. He's a guy that uses great body control, can go up and catch those 50-50 passes. Great route runner, deceptive speed. He had a really, really good spring. He's going to play opposite of Savion Williams. Savion Williams is the guy, if you guys watched TCU in Texas last year, he had the breakout game against the Longhorns. Another big receiver. They're going to be big on the outside. Savion goes 6'5", 225, and Eric goes about 6'3", almost 6'4", and about 200 pounds. But they're super excited about Eric McAllister. And defensively, I want to say Caleb Elarms-Orr, the linebacker from Cal, was really the gem of this transfer portal class. He's a guy that Ohio State wanted really bad. It was really down to TCU and Ohio State, and he decided to go to TCU. Had a chance to talk with him about why he chose TCU when he first got on campus, and it was the style of defense that new defensive coordinator Andy Avalos puts out there, gives his linebackers a chance to make plays. And in spring camp, he was all over the field. He really stood out, and that's another guy that the coaching staff is extremely high on. And honestly, I think he's a perfect fit for that defense. And by the end of the year, we're going to be talking about him quite a bit.
Switching over to defense.
Right. Anybody that says no to Ohio State is okay by us.
Yeah, I figured that would get y'all pumped for that one.
Hope he has a great year. Maybe gets a cold or something, misses the UC game, but other than that, hope he plays great. The secondary. I know, reading through some of your stuff, replacing guys in the secondary, safety, and obviously Josh Newton, who's been a really good college player now with the Bengals. What are expectations with that group? How did that look in the spring? What kind, especially with the new defensive coordinator and all the changes that come with the new head guy on that side?
Man, they're missing Josh Newton. He's such a great player, great leader. You guys are going to love him up there in Cincinnati. He's just a good football player and even better person. But with TCU secondary,
real quick, he made headlines right away when they drafted him, and in the very initial press conference, like the call, like right after they drafted him, his call with the media, he said shit like 10 times, and everybody was dying laughing, and everybody loves him already, and he's jamming Chad Johnson, messing around with him at practice like a month or so ago. So he's already acclimating himself quite nicely to Cincinnati.
Yeah, he's going to be the guy that you guys in the media up there are going to want to talk with, because he's going to tell it how it is. He's going to tell you if the Bengals got their butt stomped or if they played great. He's going to say how it is, and that's one thing that they learned really quick around TCU's media department is that Josh is great with the media, and former coaches like Gary Patterson might not have liked Josh Newton that much because he says what's on his mind, but. Sonny Dykes, credit to him. He lets his players talk, and Josh is just one of those guys that he's just going to do great in life, man. He was lowly recruited in high school, went to Louisiana Monroe, and made some big plays there, and then decided to go to TCU, and it just instantly became a big time leader for them. But getting back on the TCU track, we can talk about Josh Newton all day long, man. He's a good dude, but. They have some good guys coming back. Bud Clark is a 2-year starter at safety. If anyone remembers that Michigan game in the Fiesta Bowl, he was the guy that returned the first pick six for them. He's played a lot of football at TCU. Abe Kamara is a guy that I felt he's kind of been the guy that's been a starter, hasn't been a starter, just always plays a lot though. And just watching him this spring, it just seems like this defense fits him perfectly. He makes plays all over the field. He's very smart. Probably had the best spring of any defensive back that I saw on their roster. He's going to play strong safety. Cam Smith was a great addition from Memphis. He came in and made a lot of plays, had a lot of takeaways, and truly the guy that really I feel he really could have been another kid that I would tell you to watch from the transfer portal that they got. Lamarian James from Old Dominion. You don't expect a lot, and this is what I was telling you guys earlier. They weren't necessarily looking for guys with the blue bloods on their helmets or on their jerseys. They wanted guys that were productive college football players, and he was a productive college football player at Old Dominion. And let me tell you, that kid, I've covered TCU since 2005. I've seen a lot of Gary Patterson defenses. This defense reminds me a ton of how those defenses were back in TCU's heyday. And really, when you look at a kid like Lamarian James, he reminds me of those type of corners that were just excellent in that system. Not the biggest guys, about 5'9", 5'10", not real heavy, but just a ball hawk, has tremendous ball skills. The guy must have had at least 6 or 7 interceptions in spring camp, and arguably he was the best cover corner on that entire roster. So when you lose a guy like Josh Newton, you can replace him. He's not Josh Newton's size, but I'll tell you right now, he's got really good ball skills. He's going to help them a lot. And I would tell you, just keep an eye on that Lamarian James kid. I think he's going to make some big plays for them in the secondary.
Awesome. You mentioned the linebacker transfer from Cal. Other guys in the front seven, how, is the Avalos system a 3-down, 4-down? What do you expect in the front seven from whether it's returning guys or portal guys, and how do those fit with what kind of system he's running?
It's really a multiple defense. I mean, it's a 4-man lineman base, 4-man base, but it's bringing pressure from all different angles. It's letting the defensive end get after the quarterback, letting the linebacker get after the quarterback, letting the cornerback get after the quarterback. There's pressure, there's constant pressure from all different angles. And that's one thing that impressed me during spring camp is he didn't hold anything back. I mean, the first couple practice, he's throwing everything he can at Kendall Browse. And the defense, I'll be honest with you, they were more impressive the first few practices than the offense was. And the defensive players, you could just tell they love playing in this style of defense. And that was one of the biggest knocks the last 2 years. Even in TCU's run to the national championship, the defense was kind of a sit and wait. That old term you always hear about defenses, the bend don't break defense. That was kind of what the 3-3-5 was built on. And they would get away with using that defense against lesser teams, but when you face a team like Michigan, face a team like Georgia, we all saw how that was, and I think it just really carried over into 2023. So this defense applies more pressure. It's a lot more aggressive. I think the guy that I would tell you to keep an eye on is another linebacker, Nnamdi Obiazor. He's really adapted well to playing TCU football. This was a guy that was 5'11", 195 pounds in high school. He had a tremendous growth spurt. He's now 6'3", 225, played safety during the 2022 national title run and then shifted down to linebacker last year and led the team in tackles. This spring, he was the true constant on that defense, especially at linebacker, never rotated in and out, always with the first team, always making plays, whether it was in the run game, whether it was in covering receivers. Though the TCU's got some extremely fast receivers, especially at the slot position, and he did a great job covering those guys. But I would tell you, Nnamdi's going to be a player to watch. They did lose Dominic Williams to Oklahoma, so that's a big loss. Dominic wasn't a great player in the sense of great stats, but just what he was able to take on every game, drawing double teams constantly, allowing other players along that defensive line to make plays was his biggest asset. But in the spring, what I noticed was guys like Caleb Fox stepping up. He's a 3-tech. Timon Mitchell, former Georgia Bulldog, has been at TCU a couple years now. He's a bigger kid. He's 300 pounds. Marcus Dill was one of the class duels. I mean, he was the guy that chose TCU over Texas, over Oklahoma, over Alabama, all the big name blue bloods you could think of. TCU was able to land this kid, 6'5", 315-pound defensive tackle, and they're expecting him to do some big things. I would expect him to be the second team nose tackle heading into fall camp. And that's the thing with this defense. You want to have a defensive line that has a good 8 to 9 man rotation. I mean, it's so similar to what I used to see with Gary Patterson's defense, just putting speed on the field, don't have to have the biggest guys, and you just want to have guys that know what they're doing. With a 3-3-5, you're watching Iowa State defense. You're watching these 6'4", 280-pound defensive ends that aren't necessarily getting to the quarterback. They're just helping in the run game. Now they're utilizing those 6'4", 245, 250-pound defensive ends that have a little bit more speed and get to the quarterback. I would say the only exception to that is Paul Oyewale, who's probably the first guy that gets off the bus for TCU. He's a redshirt sophomore, 6'4", 270 pounds, but he looks like he's about 240 pounds because he's shredded up, does not miss weight room days, and he's extremely fast off the edge. He had, I believe, 5 sacks last year as a redshirt freshman, and he's another guy that I expect to do big things in this defense.
They let Dave and I come off the bus last.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm not even allowed on the bus.
Yeah. Well, the former defensive coordinator was Joe Gillespie, right?
Yeah, correct.
As you see guys playing SMU, we're very familiar. We have quite a few instances during the last few years where we kind of dog walked that defense up and down the field. So you guys are probably happy to be to a little bit different style.
Absolutely. Yeah, the fans were very happy as long as that run was going in 22. But I think once the game happened against Michigan, everyone was really glad that obviously TCU won the game, advanced the national championship. And then the game against Georgia was a big wake-up call. And then I think the biggest wake-up call for that defense really happened in the first game of the next year with every single eyeball watching Fort Worth, Texas, because they wanted to see the arrival of Deion Sanders in Colorado. And you're talking to the guy who thought Shedeur Sanders was going to get picked off about 4 times by by TCU because, I'll be honest, Shador was a pretty good high school quarterback, but I just didn't know how good he was. And obviously he's proved me and a lot of other critics wrong. I really feel like he's the top quarterback, one of the top two quarterbacks. I feel like him and Jalen Daniels are the top two quarterbacks in the Big 12. But yeah, that game against Colorado was a real eye opener. And, they were just never able to recover from that. Just so many games that if the offense did not score 30 points, you were losing the ball game. And I think they just really needed to get away from that.
So 2 years ago, national championship game, a lot of guys leave. Understandable regression to last year. Where do kind of expectations fall going into this season? I know TCU in the preseason poll, which kind of doesn't mean a ton in the Big 12 because it seems like every year whoever's picked at the top finishes in the middle, and at least one team from that muddled middle pack makes it to the title game. So kind of like, what is the fan vibe right now? What are your guys' thoughts going into the year coming off of the highest of highs? And then I'm sure some fans still didn't want to accept it, but I mean, you go to the title game and your quarterback and your wide receiver and a bunch of other guys leave. There's going to be a little bit of a fall, but so where are things kind of as we head into this year?
I think it's kind of get back to 8-9 wins. I really feel like TCU is not really a program that their fans hang their hat on just making a bowl game. Bowl games, if you're 6-6, I'll be honest, it's great for the kids to go to a bowl game, get all that cool gear that they get, but 6-6 to me is not a really successful season. If you get into that, you're 2 games above 500, 7-5, you win your bowl game, you're 8-5. If TCU can finish around 8 to 9 wins, I really think that's a successful season. If you look at last year, 2023, they had so many guys that they had to replace from that 22 team, and they weren't a veteran team. They didn't have that leadership, and they didn't finish games. And if you watch the 22 season, TCU became kind of the darlings of college football because there were so many heart attack games that they played in. So many games where they were winning in the last second or winning off a field goal. The bazooka kick at Baylor at the last second. I mean, that was an amazing game. I mean, just being there, seeing that game was just crazy. But if you look at last year, they were in a lot of those similar games. And me and Coach Dykes talked about this. They just didn't know how to finish. That group of kids did not know how to finish. They lost 3 games by a combined 9 points. So you're 9 points away from being 8-4 instead of 5-7. So if they can figure out maybe a way to score another touchdown a game, maybe limit less of a field goal, 6 points less a game, this team can win a lot of football games. I love their schedule. Their schedule sets up really nicely. I like the fact that they get UCF at home. I think UCF can be really sneaky good. I keep telling everyone, I feel like they're going to be sneaky good. They got a lot of great athletes. KJ Jefferson's down there now from Arkansas.
We heard he's playing D end.
He's big enough to, and that's the guy really that TCU fans wanted to go after because guess who was his coach at Arkansas? Kendall Giles. So I really feel like UCF can be good, and the good thing with that is TCU gets them at home. It's their first Big 12 game. So they get them early in the season before they can really get dialed in. But road games against Kansas and Utah on back-to-back weeks is going to be really tough. They got to go to Arrowhead Stadium. Like I said earlier, I feel like Jalen Daniels is one of the top quarterbacks in the Big 12. I feel like Devin Neal is one of the top running backs. That defense plays solid defense. They're a really well-coached football team. They have better than average athletes now. And it's crazy to say that about Kansas because I would have never told myself 2 years ago we'd be talking about Kansas being a consistent top 25 team and battling for the Big 12 title. But they're there. They're ready to go out and play. But going on the road at Utah, TCU had to go on the road to Utah back in the Mountain West days. It was a battle some games, and some games TCU just went out there and they won convincingly. So they're not afraid to go up there and play in Salt Lake City. The other games I like that they play at home. Oklahoma State's at home. They're a contender for the Big 12. Arizona's at home. They're a contender for the Big 12. So some of the tough games that I really feel are toss-up games, four out of the 6 games they get to play at home. SMU is going to be a tough game for them. It's a rivalry game, but they go to Dallas, and TCU typically brings as many fans to that game as SMU has. So it's not really a road game.
Way more fans there than SMU.
So I'm glad you said that, so they won't attack me. But playing on the road at Waco against Baylor, that's something that they've always been successful doing. They've never had trouble. Texas Tech is another game. I feel like, they if that game was played in Fort Worth last year, I really feel TCU would have won that game. But strange things happen in Lubbock. I'm just telling you guys right now.
Oh yeah,
strange things happen in Lubbock, and especially if it's a night game during a Thursday or Friday night, it's going to be even crazier. So Texas Tech's at home this year. They got to come to the Carter. So again, I feel like this schedule sets up nicely for them to win 7, 8, possibly 9 games. Anything above that, you're exceeding expectations. And I really feel like it's a great year if they get to that 9 win total. But again, the great thing they did with this team, especially through the transfer portal, is bringing in those senior type guys, bringing those guys that have played a ton of college football. And that's one thing that I could tell you that I noticed different right off the bat in spring camp. You could sense a different chemistry. You can sense that those guys were all there as part of their business decision, not just to get NIL money or whatnot. They want to win football games. And I even joked around with Coach Dykes about that. I was like, man, this it seems like the chemistry is better at this time right now than it was a year ago. And he said, you're absolutely right. So that's one thing I'm kind of hanging my hat on. Just, I'm always the optimistic guy, but I'm keeping expectations kind of at a minimum right now. So 7 to 9 wins, to me, every TCU fan should be extremely happy with that.
An old friend of ours once said, "You ever been to Lubbock? It's hard. It's hard." Try 9 o'clock tip off in Lubbock. Get back to Morgantown 5 o'clock in the morning. It's hard. It's hard.
I don't think there's many easy flights from either Cincinnati or Morgantown to Lubbock. So,
I think they used to have to fly to Pittsburgh or drive to Pittsburgh, and then fly from Pittsburgh to wherever they could get.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Bob was never a big fan.
Have you guys been to Kansas State?
No, we go there this year.
Kansas State is a really cool environment. Fans are great. Stadium's great. I would say, like, if you're like me and you just love press box food and you have your own press box rankings for food, Texas Tech's going to be the team to beat there. They serve up good food, and Oklahoma State treats you good too.
We were at Oklahoma State last year, and then we played Texas Tech this year, but I don't have the schedule in front of me. I don't even know. I think that's at Tech, so maybe if Chad or one of our other guys heads down there, that's good advice. Probably lots of tortillas, right? Like
they serve it up. Get ready to eat. You're fed the entire time, and you got the nice fountain drinks, got Dr. Pepper, and we're real big on Dr. Pepper down here in these parts. So
yeah,
for that.
September 28th, early. Probably not going to be super hot that day.
Oh yeah, hopefully that's a night one.
Let me tell you guys, it's already hot in Texas. It's going to be hot. Hopefully it's going to be hot for you guys.
Chad, you got anything for Jeremy? He nailed everything I got.
Where's the fan base at on Sonny Dykes? I know you get to a championship game, everybody's on your side. You have a down year, everybody starts to jump off. Where are they at on that love fest?
Well, I mean, with any fan base, you're going to have the guys that will tell you Sonny Dykes was never the right guy for the job. And they were gloating last year. They're sticking their chests out a little bit further because, hey, I told you guys he wasn't the right guy for the job, just totally dismissing the fact that he took them to the national championship the year prior. So I think the biggest thing that people like about Sonny is he's really a player's coach. he knows how to talk to the media. He's extremely, well liked in coaching circles. All the media loves him down here. The players love him. And he just has one simple request: just do your job. That's what he tells the players. Just do your job. I'm not going to ask you guys to do anything that you're not capable of doing. And I think the players enjoy that. I mean, the practices are awesome. The first thing that he really did when he got to TCU was, I always joke around about this, but I think it was true, is everything that, Gary Patterson had built is great. I mean, TCU's where they're at because of Gary Patterson. And the big thing about Gary, though, toward the end was there were some things that fans didn't necessarily like: closed pack practices, player availability. Like I mentioned earlier, if Josh Newton would have said some of the things that he told us last year, he would have never spoke to the media again. He would have been banned from speaking to the media. So I always joke with people that Sonny got handed a list of things people didn't like about Gary Patterson, and he did everything opposite. And one of the first things he did was he opened his spring practices to fans, and the fans came out there in droves. I mean, they came out there by the hundreds to watch spring practice. And I remember walking around and just seeing people that I've seen that TCU's not a big a media group. We don't have a ton of people that follow them. It's, Dallas Fort Worth is still A&M, it's still Texas, it's still Texas Tech, and obviously the biggest player in DFW is the Dallas Cowboys. So everyone is really, going to look at and watch those practices and cover their media events. And really, we're a small circle covering TCU. So when we were all out there just seeing all these hundreds of fans, we were like, man, this is just nuts, because it's usually just a handful of us that are at practices. And that's one thing that I think just really gravitated the TCU fan towards Sonny Dykes, is just his openness, and just going back and me speaking to other the players that even played for Gary Patterson. They felt like it was a welcomed environment to them now. And Gary's a very, very well-liked coach by his former players, but even some of the former players were even like, man, I feel welcomed. I feel welcomed here. I didn't think I was going to feel welcome, and I do. And that's something that really that Sonny Dykes cares a tremendous amount about.
And any food spots in Fort Worth that Bearcat fans need to hit up?
Well, I mean, there's a ton of great barbecue. I don't know how good barbecue is up in Ohio, but
not as good as Texas.
We've got great Tex-Mex. Yeah, I mean the best places in Fort Worth. I mean, barbecue places. I mean, you throw a rock, you're going to hit one of them. I mean, it's just they're all over the place. Great Tex-Mex places. Of course, everyone's going to tell you the greatest place to go to is Joe T. Garcia's. I mean, I'm an okay fan of it. I'm not going to downgrade it. It's a great atmosphere. If you want to go have a few cold ones and sit outdoors and enjoy the scenery, then that's the great place to go. But the people around Fort Worth, they always talk about the barbecue, Tex-Mex, and you really can't go wrong. There's a lot of great stuff to do in DFW. We can spend an entire podcast just discussing great food spots. And if I stood up, you guys really love barbecue.
Us too.
But I'm not going to stand up and let your viewers see this tremendous belly that I got underneath me, because I do love barbecue. Matter of fact, I ate some today. So just trust me on the barbecue stuff.
I think Dave and I could give you a run for your money.
We're all carrying I think we're all probably carrying a few extra around these days.
It's one of my favorite lines. Some people have a 6-pack. I have a keg. It's fine.
Hey, same here. Same here.
Yep. You ever go down to Meat Church in Waxahachie?
No, I haven't. I've heard about that place. I mean, and I love steak. I love barbecue. I mean, I'm the guy that will go and sit at Texas Day Brazil. I don't know if it's a kind of a Brazilian
Brazilian
meat. They put the
steakhouse,
meat in front of you, and me and my friends and family still discuss to this day. Years ago, I literally got meat sweats while eating there because I couldn't take myself away from the table. I couldn't take myself away from the table. I just kept eating. If they're going to put it in front of me, I'm going to eat it. So
you paid for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll have to go check
First
Lots
time
of
I went
action.
to one of those places, I didn't really know what the red and green card was. Mine was just on green the whole time, and we were in Memphis for something, and I got up from the table to walk back to the hotel, and I could hardly walk back. I had eaten so much.
I had a waiter tell me one time, "Don't quit on them."
Don't quit on
I
me.
flipped the card. He said, "Don't you quit on me." And so I had to eat. I had to eat a couple more bacon
Yeah,
wraps.
you didn't want to let him down.
Yeah, exactly right.
All right, Jeremy, we appreciate it, man. Hornfrogblitz.com, part of the 24/7 network. What's the Twitter? Where can they follow you and keep up with TCU?
It's at J Clark HFB 247. I know it's long, but it's fun covering TCU. Been at it for almost 20 years. February would be 20 years for me, and we have a lot of great stuff over there. Obviously, would love for you guys to have your guys jump on during the game week, and I'm sure we'll be reaching out to Bearcat Journal during the season, especially that last game of the season, trying to get some tips on the go-to places in Cincinnati, and we're looking forward to it, man. I can't wait to get up there. I've never been to Cincy, so looking forward to that.
You started in 05. I started here in 06. So we're in the old veteran group. Yeah, we're in the old veteran group in the 24/7 Sports Network.
That's right.
I think Fitz might have us still.
Yeah, Fitz has us, but there's a few of us out there. We're the old timers.
Appreciate it, Jeremy. Thanks, man. Anything you need, Jeremy, just let us know.
Hey, thank you guys so much. Enjoyed it.
Appreciate it.
All right, there we go. Jeremy Clark, hornedfrogblitz.com. As we get closer, you can make sure you check them out. Naughty Ron, what's up, man? Good to see you. Will football be good? We're gonna get to that. They report for camp Tuesday of next week. The first day of camp is Wednesday. They go out to higher ground over the weekend next week, and then the first higher ground practice open to the media is Monday of the following week. So the first higher ground practice is a week from Monday.
Ready to roll, man.
Yeah, it's
Bengals out there today. Got the juices flowing a little bit. And,
Dave, I didn't even plan a radio show today. I was like, look, with the Reds and the Reds post game and potentially Reds pregame and everything happened, like Zach Taylor talking at 1:45, players talking, Joe talking afterwards. I was like, there is no point in planning a show because I'm just wasting my time. I'm just going to rip it up.
You didn't want to talk about like trade deadline baseball?
Well, no, I mean, there's so much that happened today.
Oh, I know.
That was fresh, new content.
Oh, yeah.
That it was like you're just going to tear it up. You're never going to get to the stuff that you planned on talking about. So
those are good days, though. You gotta,
gotta roll with it. I love it.
Right.
But it is campus right around the corner. Before we get to our camp talk, let's get to our timestamp. Brought to you by Turtles Brew. 6% ABV, 0 sugar, 0 carbs, gluten-free. It's a bourbon-infused sweet tea. They have lemonade tea, strawberry mint, cherry lime, raspberry peach, orange vanilla. There's over 100 locations in and around Ohio. If you want to find out where you can get Turtles Brew closest to you, all you have to do is go to turtlesbrew.com for details. And a portion of the proceeds go to Save the Sea Turtles. All right, Dave. Well, it's time to talk about camp.
Let's do it.
We are here. We are here.
Offense. Let's talk some offense.
It has arrived. We're gonna wait to talk about defense until after the first practice
next week.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what they look like that first snap of practice on Wednesday of next week. And we'll make assumptions from there.
Defense right now is like a lot of I don't know, sure, maybe,
right.
Hopefully.
Right. That's a good question. I don't have an answer for it, but whatever you asked was a good question.
Yeah.
Who's going to start here? Well,
Well, we can just list some names off, but that doesn't mean anything.
Dante Corleone, if he's healthy, is going to start.
Yeah.
From there,
yeah, pretty much.
We got a couple important weeks coming up out in the wilderness in southeastern Indiana.
Yep.
So let's get to the offense. Natty Ron, you don't have to ask questions. We will answer them. Like this is what we're going to do here. Quarterback. I always start with quarterback. Let's start with quarterback. I think that they are going to, give everybody an equal opportunity from Brendan Sorsby, Brady Lichtenberg, and Samaj Jones. But Dave, let's be honest. We're all going to be surprised if it's not Brendan Sorsby under center to start the season.
I mean, I would be
frankly
gobsmacked.
Yeah.
Like, that's
gobsmacked. Have you ever been smacked with a gob before?
I don't think so. So I'm curious where that term came from. But yeah, I fully anticipating Brendan Sorsby being the taking the first reps and hopefully carrying that over to the first game. You and Keegan will be the eyes for us there,
on
but
site. Yeah.
For me, it's an efficiency thing. Like, there were just so many plays last year, and we've talked about it ad nauseum, but like, I just want the quarterback. I don't need the 300, 350 yard games. I just need efficient play. Like, be efficient. Turnovers are going to come, but like, no unnecessary, minimal unnecessary turnovers. I just want to see efficient quarterback play. Take the throws that are there, be able to hit the big plays when they're needed. I mean, that was the thing last year. It wasn't just the lack of efficiency or even the turnovers, is that when the big plays presented themselves, we never took advantage.
Never made them. Right.
No.
Never made them almost all year.
And I'll be, something that I'll be interested to see that it's hard to tell in spring, especially from the quarterback position, because we know that setting is not designed for that guy to truly get a look of what a season is going to look like. But like, what does just the offense in general look like? Is there more motion? Is there more utilization of the middle of the field? Is there more deception? Is there what does it look like with him at quarterback? Does it look any different than last year? Does it look a lot different? It's hard to, like I said, it's hard. He came in as a transfer, went right into spring ball, so he had like very remedial level understanding of the offense. Where has that gone throughout the summer? Now that guys aren't going to be getting held out as much because you're getting ready for the season, how does having hopefully the injuries are limited, a full complement of backs, tight ends, receivers, just kind of like, we know a lot about the offense, but we don't know a lot about the quarterback, and the quarterback and his abilities are what is going to dictate what the offense looks like. I felt like so much of I don't want to say dumbed down, but it was just offense last year seemed very remedial, and I think that was heavily predicated on that. I don't know how much confidence they had in Emery to kind of open things up, so to speak.
Well, to be fair, Emery never earned that trust.
Right.
Like you have to earn that you can go out and do it. And as the season went on, it got less and less likely that it became more and more apparent, I guess, even better way to say it, that he was not going to be able to open up the middle of the field, that he was not going to be able to heavily utilize the tight end or, hit a slot receiver running a drag route across a zone defense and waiting for him to get to that spot and get open. And to be fair, like we've talked about all offseason, some of that was the offensive line was poor at pass blocking. Like there's just no way around that. They were not great at it. So that's the next thing that we'll get to when we move past quarterback is the offensive line. But I think we saw from Sorsby in the spring, the arm talent is definitely there.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he makes good decisions and the offensive line gives him time, the arm talent, that part of it is not really in question.
Right.
Like we saw him deliver in spring a lot of really good balls over the middle. One thing I saw a lot of, Dave, that I think we're gonna really like are swings out of the backfield to the running backs, getting the ball out in space and letting your guys make plays. That really wasn't a part of the whatever they did last year offensively.
Yeah. Right.
I'm not sure what exactly to call it, but you get my drift. We didn't see a lot of that. So hopefully some of that stuff, like I don't think everybody wants the deep ball. And then he throws a really good deep ball. Don't get me confused there. But everybody wants the splash play. But sometimes, man, just being able to pick up 6-7 yards on first down on a swing out into the flat, or a slot receiver or a tight end sitting down in the middle of the field in a zone, or whatever the case may be, like some of that stuff keeps your offense alive and keeps the chains moving forward so that you're operating in 2nd and 4, 3rd and 3, something along those lines. So I think some of that stuff with Sorsby is going to be just as important as can he push the ball down the field and can receivers make plays for him down the field?
Well, that's why I bring up efficiency, is because the deep pass play is made available because you're good at a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And makes the defense stressed. And like last year, like teams just didn't have to respect a lot of things in the pass game. So, they weren't taking an extra step to the sideline, or the safeties weren't having to take an extra step up that would allow a guy to potentially get behind them for that true, over the top explosive play. So if he's able to, the thing that utilizing on some level, utilizing the tight ends and running backs in the pass game more will open those things up, because those things were essentially non-existent last year.
Right. Like that's the thing. Like,
so yeah, it makes it when you can't attack the middle of the field and you don't really attack the perimeter within 10 yards outside of like a hitch to Xavier Henderson, for whatever reason, guys can't get open, plays can't, the quarterback can't make the play. It sure makes it a lot harder to challenge the middle of the field. So if they can do those things and get the ball to Joe Roy or whatever tight end, or incorporate any of the running backs more in the pass game, you force teams to play you a little bit differently. That should then hopefully like I was listening to you guys Monday night do the pass receiving. Xavier Henderson, I think, is clearly he plays all 12 games. He's probably going to be the leading receiver. He's your prototypical outside guy. Tyron Smith to me is number 2. Not that the whole offense is going to live or die on his productivity, but that's the kind of guy that the offense last year was dying to have. Somebody that can get in and out of a break super quick. You get him the ball at 5 yards, he can make that linebacker, that safety miss, and turn it into a 20-yard gain. That was a nothing play for us last year. How many times did they complete a relatively short pass and the receiver turned it into a big play?
Not very often.
So, and then when that happens, you have to come up to him. You have to, you get him in a mismatch on a linebacker, then that requires the safety to move up a little bit because he's worried, okay, if this super shifty dude makes this guy miss, I'm the only one left between him and the end zone. Right. So I've got to make sure that I don't give him space to make me miss. And then that then would hopefully allow an Xavier Henderson, a Tony, like some other outside threat to then take advantage of that, peeking, not peeking in the backfield because it's not a run play, but like respecting the middle of the field. Everything in the pass game to me is off of the middle of the field. If you can't attack the hashes and in between the hashes, it makes playing coverage so much easier for the defense.
So here's what we know, Dave. Scott Satterfield, for the last 5-6 years, whatever it is, his offenses have averaged 200 yards rushing a game, 200 yards passing a game.
And it did last year, and it didn't.
Yeah, shockingly, it did last year. What is that number for you in terms of the pass game? What is that number, like, how high up does it need to go?
Not a whole lot higher. It's just the efficiency of it. Because, I think the running game is going to be as good, if not better. So if the running game is as good, if not better, and the pass game can just be more efficient, 220, 230, because I think they're going to be still going to be a run-based offense. So I'm not sure how many times we're going to see in a close game. I'm sure if they're losing, then you have to throw, but. I don't think you need some giant leap of we're averaging 250, 260 yards in the air. But it's when do those throws come? Are they efficient? What does that do to open up things for the run game? Because I think you got 3 pretty capable backs and an offensive line that if they can get the tackle situation sorted out, can be a very quality offensive line with quality backs and quality tight ends. And if your quarterback can just, I'm not going to say manage because he needs to be a player. In college football, you're not winning a bunch of games with a game manager at quarterback. It just doesn't work that way. There's too many plays.
And this defense isn't we have no clue. If you look at successful game managers, that they're a game manager because the other team because the team has a dominant defense and a dominant run game, and you just need your quarterback not to screw up.
No, he needs to be a player. There's no doubt about that. I don't think he needs to be throwing it 35 times a game for 280 every game. But when those plays present themselves in the pass game, we have to hit them, and they have to be more efficient, more able to attack the middle, because teams are just going to go, we know Xavier Henderson's good. We're going to shade the safety. We're going to do this, and we're going to go, okay, figure it out with the other guys. If we can't, if it's the same thing as last year.
I think he needs to be in that 240 range.
And that's very doable in college football.
Really
that's that's certainly not a crazy number to get to if you're, going to run 70, 80 sometime. Last year, that's the thing we joked about is they ran an insane amount of plays at times.
Yeah.
But weren't efficient. So it didn't matter that you were running 90 plays because you were just going from your own 25 to the opponent 45 and taking 11 plays to do it.
Right. No, you're supposed to run around a lot of plays to get in the red zone and score touchdowns. When they did get in the red zone, they couldn't score touchdowns. No. And offensive line. On paper, all 5 starters are returning. I think right tackle is one of the more interesting position battles in camp, and we'll see how much of a battle it is. We didn't get to see DeAndre Buford really in the spring, but a little bit of when we did see him as he kind of inched his way back was on the inside. So what is Philip Wilder's the guy that took almost, I think, all of the whatever the number one reps were. He was the guy with that group for most of the spring. Do we see that continue? Does Buford slot back in after coming back from the injury? Does he slot back in to that right tackle spot, or does the guy that kept it through the spring hold on to it, and we'll see what happens from there. And then I think Xavier Lozowicki is another guy that they expect to battle for that right tackle spot. So if I had to guess, Dave, we will not see all 5 returning offensive linemen starting at the beginning of the season. I think there very well could be a new right tackle.
I'm fine with that because the tackles just weren't good enough last year, and in some moments in like glaringly poor play. I feel pretty good about the 3 guys on the interior. I mean, we know what we're getting with those guys. They've played a ton of college football. They are more than adequate Big 12 level interior offensive linemen. But the offensive line has to be better on the edges, pass protection, and in the run game. And I hope to see some developed depth in preseason camp, because we know that, it always cracks me up. Like, tons of offensive line coaches always say they want like depth and they want to play guys, but if you have 5 really good guys or 5 pretty good guys, then you just play them. But we also know that it's very hard to go through an entire season with your whole offensive line intact.
Right.
And one guy going down, if you don't have, requisite backup ability, is going to torpedo anything you typically want to do offensively against anyone with a decent defense. So it's getting those tackles, upgraded, whether that's players that played a lot last year being better, whether that's new guys in those roles. It's just got to be better, because the quarterback play last year suffered because of it. There's no doubt about it. I think it got in Emory's head as the season went on that
he was never comfortable.
Anything that was not just a 1-step drop or even a 3-step drop with an automatic read to one side, his eyes dropped. He would take off, or it was an incomplete pass or a sack, and it's got to be better if you want Brandon Sorsby to do the things that we talked about. He can't be thinking about pressure on the outside. So it's got,
because look, let's be honest, Dave. Sorsby's pretty good running quarterback. He's not as mobile as Emory Jones was. So
no, I don't.
He's a different type of runner. Emory Jones was a guy that could escape a pass rush a little bit. Sorsby, I think if you're running him in designed runs and you're putting him in advantageous situations, I don't know how much of a scrambler he's going to be. And if you look at his numbers, well, real quick, if you look at his numbers from IU, his biggest, the analytics show he was not great against the blitz.
Right.
It was not something that was a strength of his at Indiana. So, or at least against pressure. I don't want to say specifically against blitz, but pressure in general. So they're going to have to keep him upright. They're going to have to give him some time to make plays in the pocket because he's not a guy. He'll stand in there. I don't think he's a guy that's just looking hot route, designed route, hot route, tuck and go.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got, from what again, it's very hard to look at.
Quarterbacks can't be tackled.
It's very hard to look at 6 games of IU as a redshirt freshman and coming in cold and everything that was going on there, and then also spring when it's not the same. So I think he's got good pocket mobility, I think he wants to extend the play to throw. I think he will run if he is forced to, but yeah, it's not like Emery sometimes, like if it wasn't there, he was out like a rocket. I don't think that is Sorsby's game. I think he wants to stand in there and make that throw. But at the same time, that presents its own set of bad possibilities, you know. Everybody loves a quarterback that stands in there and waits till the last second and threads the needle, but there's also a greater opportunity for sack, interception, things of that nature when you do that. So, you know, they've got, you know, hopefully, you know, we'll get to the run game, but I mean, hopefully the run game and some more, you know, that's the thing is if you're going to pressure, you have your 4 down typically, so you're always going to get pressure from those guys. The extra pressure comes from the linebackers. Well, last year we saw a lot of pressure from linebackers because there was no threat of throwing it behind them and making the team pay for vacating the middle of the field. If you can do that this year, you will slow down the amount of pressure that you will see.
I saw more delayed blitzes last year, linebackers, than I think I've ever seen in my life. Just wait 2 counts.
Wait till you make sure that it's not a run play, and then just go because these guys can't get open and they're not going to throw it in where I was.
Right. That's and one I was very happy to see how willing Sorsby was to throw it over the middle in the spring. Let's see how that carries over into higher ground here in a couple weeks. Running back, Corey Kiner is back. Everybody else is gone. I was a big fan of Miles Montgomery. I always thought Miles had a ton of talent, but I think I'm okay with a Miles Montgomery for Evan Pryor trade. And I think Chance Williams has a chance to kind of surprise some people as that, you know, change of pace, 3rd down guy.
Dudes. Yeah, I mean, I think running back to me is the position that I am most excited to see in this offense because I think they do have 3 legit dudes. I think, you know, Evan Pryor can stay healthy. I mean, he has all the talent. He has the breakaway speed. He has everything you want. I mean, if you've paid any attention to, he didn't get to play a ton at Ohio State for multiple reasons. Really, really, really good running backs and injuries. Yeah. But there's a reason that he was recruited by everybody, and there's a reason in the little bit that you got to saw, I think maybe from last year's spring game, where he was a very good player for them. So I won't go as far to call it like thunder and lightning because I think that's just an overused running back trope. But
sure,
you know, if he can be that guy, and then I'll be very curious to see how they're able to work in Chance Williams because again, we're taking a big jump, Grambling to the Big 12, but the kid put some ridiculous tape up against LSU, who did not have a very good defense, but has all the athletes you could ever want.
Right.
Some ridiculous tape against LSU. You know, if he's your 3rd guy and he's getting, I don't know, 5 touches, 7 touches a game, depending on the situation, if you can use him out of the backfield, if you can, you know, if you can get him in space, if he can make some guys like very, very bullish on the run game. I think the tight ends will be better to help the run game. I think they're much bigger and more powerful, hopefully better run blocking from the tight end room in this year's group than last year's. I'm not going to I don't want to say anything negative, but
I'll say what you're thinking.
Shimon and Peyton and Singletary weren't exactly like the I'm gonna crush this dude in the run game type tight ends.
Much like Cardell Jones didn't go to Ohio State to play school, Shamama Taylor did not come here to play offensive tackle.
Right.
Right? He came here to be a pass catcher.
So
And Peyton Singletary just wasn't big enough.
Right.
Like, he was 240 pounds. Like, he was just not a guy, 6'2", 6'3", 200. He's not a guy that was going to stick his nose in the fan. It's not stick his head in the fan. That's different.
Right.
One is here, one is here. So not the Royer kind. But, like,
yeah,
you've got more guys this year that I think are, that was one of the things, like Lenny Taylor was always great at, and why he learned it as his career went on. You've got to be a factor in the run game. And then that can open up, because what happens? Then you fake like you're blocking, and then you release into a route, and the defense has to respect it because they don't know whether you're going out into the route or not. That opens up a lot more for your tight ends as well. So I agree there. I mean, we don't have to spend a ton of time on tight ends. Keegan just had a great article up on
read
tight
that.
ends today.
But yeah, I mean, Joe Royer, Francis Sherman. I'm always leery to talk freshman, but like Devin Zahersky fits that mold of, like, if we want to run the ball and we want to go 12 personnel, he's the guy that I think could be be on the field for stuff like that as your second tight end. I will be interested to see how do we see more 12 personnel based on the tight ends and the different varieties of tight ends that they now have? Because I mean, I think we're definitely going to see Royer, Sherman, Joey Belgian, and Gavin Grover in various. So there's 4 guys that I feel pretty confident we're going to see play. I'm not going to say how much, but like they're going to be out there more than a tiny bit. Does Devin Zahersky get into the mix? So how much does that help? How much does that help the running game if you can go to 12 personnel and then throw out of it, or because you're able to run the ball really well with the 2 tight ends on the field? Everybody has to. When you put 2 tight ends out there, everybody's got to come up just a little bit, because the thought is this is going to be a run. So how much does that open things up for one-on-one matchups on the outside?
Sherman's the one that's interesting for me. Like, that you can do a bunch of different things if that second tight end is versatile. And I mean, I think with him, I think you can motion him into the backfield to be the H-back, fullback.
Oh yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. Like Coach Stepp said in Keegan's article, like, he's a guy that's going to be connected. He's going to be in line. So you're not going to see that guy split out. But what that does, Dave, if you've got a guy that you're comfortable with as the inline guy, I think that's what opens the door up for a lot more 12 personnel, right? Because it's really difficult. Like, I don't want to say difficult. Maybe a better word is stupid. If you have 2 tight ends on the field and you're using them both as wide receivers, then I think you're really bad at slot receiver.
Yeah.
Like, you should have a wide receiver out there in that spot to make short area plays in space and pair up with that big, you got to put a linebacker on him, tight end. If you got 2 pass catching tight ends, I think it's redundant. So I think you need that second guy to be a guy that can play in line, can be a guy that's willing to get dirty and smash into somebody, so you can still sell the run, because nobody's buying 12 personnel with 2 pass catching tight ends.
Not if they're both attached. Like, if you have one attached and one out, then sure, that. But no, if I try to bring 2 tight ends in, and the defense knows that both of these guys are not gonna, this is not a power running play for them, because these 2 tight ends. Yeah, they brought 2 tight ends in, but they're glorified wide receivers. They ain't blocking anybody. So,
or they brought 2 tight ends in and neither of them can block. So we're coming after the quarterback. Right. Like, you need that versatility. If you're going to play 12, one of them better be able to be respected as a blocker. That's kind of
For
what I
sure.
was getting at. I think I took the long way to that point, but I
That
got there
never
eventually.
happens. That never happens.
Appreciate you hanging out with us, Natty Ron. Love seeing you around. And then wide receiver, Xavier Henderson's going to be number 1. I think Tony Johnson is going to be number 2. On the outside, it's going to be interesting to see who's number 3. I think that's the interesting question outside.
Yeah. Yeah, where does
Sterling Buckhalter take that next step? I think he flashed a little bit last year, but I think there's still development that needs to be shown. That see better than I hear. Show me that you're ready to take that next step and be the backup guy. For Evan Prater, got to be healthy, man.
Be available.
That's it's the biggest ability is availability. That's the hard part for Evan because of injuries and through no fault of his own. Since this move to wide receiver, you know what, Dave? I liked some of the tape he put on, some of the stuff he put on tape last year, but then he missed another entire offseason. So what is that availability like for him? But Tyron Smith, Aaron Turner, Barry Jackson, they got a lot to like in the slot.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see like how much, do we see Aaron Turner and Tyron Smith on the field at the same time? If it's
that's going real small, Dave.
Right, but I mean, if they when they do go 4 out, is it a tight end? Is it another? Is there another quote unquote outside receiver who moves into the slot? Is Barry Jackson that like bigger slot wide receiver?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how they mix and match the formations out at higher ground when they do go to the true shotgun 4 out, like absolutely throwing formations. Yeah. So
1 back, no tight ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
No backs, 5 out. Joe Burrow offense.
Yeah, Joe loves it. If Sorsby can operate that offense like Burrow, I'm all for it. This is going to be an interesting year for Xavier Henderson because he really didn't get he's big and fast with good hands. So if he's got a quarterback that can actually push the ball down the field, that makes some of that underneath stuff for him even more dangerous because they ran their primary passing offense last year was if the corners are playing off, just have Henderson run 10 yards,
stop,
turn around, box the guy out, and catch the pass. But there was really, even with that, there was no threat of him going over the top because even if he beat the guy, they couldn't complete the pass.
And the fact that they got literally nothing from the other side of the field from the wide receiver position.
Yeah. I was disappointed in that. I thought they had a couple guys that I felt like should have been able to fulfill that role. That's if one of the things I really could pick at about that, Dave, I think they messed up with Donovan Ollie. I thought he should have been that perfect possession, good route runner, solid number 2 receiver. But I guess if Emory Jones never got to, turn his head all the way over to the other side, then maybe it wouldn't have mattered. But
yeah, I don't know, man.
It was frustrating because they got nothing from last year. 2.
It felt like he went almost the whole season before he caught 1 pass.
Yeah, they just didn't play him. He was never out on the field. And I felt like that would have been the right guy because of his style of play to play that second spot, and they just never gave him a shot.
I mean that whoever that is needs to be, because Xavier Henderson is not going to be a secret. Like teams are going to just go throw it to somebody else. Show us you can throw it to somebody else consistently, or else this is what kind of coverage he's going to see. And not every defense can necessarily do that. I mean, this isn't the NFL where pretty much any team can try their best to take away the other team's best receiver. But they've got to get something on the. They actually have to get way more on the outside, opposite of him, than they did last year. Not just something; they have to get way more.
I would find something, Dave, because it's better than nothing.
Right, I'm just saying if we want to have a successful passing game, it's got to be.
Hopefully Tony Johnson is what they believe he is, because they believe he can be a guy that can be dynamic at that spot. And we like Tyler Scott, that's the spot he played is that second wide receiver where, they're not doubling him generally. They're generally leaving him in off coverage with their second, third corner, whatever. Like that's Tony Johnson, and he missed a pretty good chunk of the spring. Right. This is an important camp for him to show that, like, hey, I'm that guy opposite Henderson that can really, really make things happen.
Yeah. Okay, so offensively, we covered a lot. Let's talk again. It's the old cliches, but like, do you have a couple breakout guys or guys you're most interested in watching in camp that are either totally new to the team offensively or are likely going to be asked to play a much bigger role than they did last year?
I mean, offense, there's not a ton of questions going in. I do think, if Brendan Sorsby and Tyron Smith can kind of get on the same page, I'm with you that could be a big one. I want to like Chance Williams more, but I think he's third in that room. So I think it's difficult to like him more at this stage in the game. Does that make sense? Like,
sure.
I think if given the opportunity, he's a name that we would really, really like. But I don't know, outside of like change of pace, and we don't know, like, is that a guy that likes a third down back? Is Chance Williams a guy that's going to block like a third down back? I think everybody just thinks of third down back and they think of like little tiny scat guy. Like, you got to pick up the blitz on third down as well. So that's something we'll find out. Wilder and Lozawecki challenging at right tackle, challenging Buford at right tackle is something that I'm going to have my eye on quite a bit. And where are we seeing Buford? Like, because there's a chance, like, if they see him as potentially, let's say, the best option at guard behind Kandra, where you'll see him getting reps with the ones at right tackle, but also maybe playing with the twos at guard, because that's kind of how they see, their best depth playing out as well. So, I don't know, man. I don't think there's anything really surprising about offense in terms of like names. I think it's guys have to go out and get it done.
Yeah. No, I agree. I would say I'm going to be most interested to
Royer
hear. Hopefully I can get out there. Evan Pryor, just because I feel like he's your prototype back. We have a very good A, do we have a B or do we have a 1A?
Right. I think that's fair.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with a B, but if this offense and this run game has a 1A, then I think we're talking about something a little bit different, because I'm not going to compare him, but like he has similar ability to Jerome Ford. Like that's
there just wasn't, to get to your point, Dave. And, again, I led the Miles Montgomery fan club. Miles didn't do a whole lot with his opportunities. Like there were a couple runs where it was like, okay, that's what we saw at practice.
Well,
but consistently when they gave him the ball.
I'll never forget the run against Oklahoma. The hole is wide open. He makes one guy miss. It might be a touchdown on like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, and he gets tackled right there, and they don't pick up the first down. And I don't remember if they punted or went for it and didn't get it. But like, that's the play. Evan Pryor makes that guy, in my mind, makes that guy miss and scores a touchdown.
Yeah. Or like, at least picks up a chunk.
Oh, sure. But like, if he's coming in here knowing that Corey is the
returning 1,000-yard rusher.
Right. How can this offense take the next biggest step outside of quarterback play? To me, is in this running offense that averages 200 yards a game, and that I have no doubt will be in the top 15 nationally in running. How many 5-yard runs can they turn into 15-yard runs? And how many of those plays turn into touchdowns that they just did not have last year out of the run game? I mean, they got down there how many damn times?
Right.
They ran it up your ass from the 20s, 20 to the 20. And as soon as they got to the 20, it was like, we don't know how to run the football anymore.
Well, because the field shrinks, Dave. Like,
right,
teams
but
are able to kind of.
That's where a guy like Evan Pryor, when the field shrinks, you have to make the play. You have to make the guy miss.
Yeah.
You have to beat the guy to the edge.
And also, guess what? You're allowed to score when you have the ball between the 20s.
Yeah.
Go take it to the house.
Right.
Like, wasn't Louisville coming in Satterfield's last year like number 1 in runs over 40 yards, touchdown runs over 40 yards?
I think, yeah. I mean, they
were way up there. If they weren't first, they were not last.
Right. We never got that wide zone run. I mean, they hit it with. I mean, obviously the circumstances were what they were, but the Fenway Bowl, they hit that wide zone run, one cut touchdown. How many times in that game?
37.
And we didn't get that one time last year.
No.
Corey had some long runs, but he's not he's not the 65, 70, 80. I mean, it doesn't even have to be that, but like if Corey pounds wears you down and then Prater hits a 40-yarder for a touchdown, fine by me. But like, where does the running game go?
It created the controversy with Miles Montgomery because he got caught a couple times. Satterfield mentioned it, and Montgomery posted on Twitter like, "I'm not fast." Well, you got caught from behind 3 times. What? I know you're fast, but what you put on tape was getting caught. Take it to the house.
Yeah, like where does the run game go if Evan is what we all hope he is?
Yeah.
And then it's the right tackle. Like how does that shake out? Is it the same? Is it slightly better? Is it significantly better? Because I mean, right. I think the wide receiver tight end grouping of pass catchers, I think should be better. I'm not quite to be like a lot better without seeing it in a more of a true game situation.
And it's going to be hard to judge, Dave, because we're not sure what kind of pass rushers they have.
Yeah, we don't really know shit about the defense, and we won't for at least a week or so because the first week is like, who the hell knows? I mean, so much is going on.
Like, for a couple years, we knew MyJ was coming at whoever was lined up at either tackle. like all day, every day. He was going to switch sides, and he was just going to be the Energizer Bunny. Like he was, if that guy had a weakness, MyJ was going to go after it.
Yeah.
We haven't had that. So it's hard to tell, like, what are they going to be like when you face an NFL type edge rusher?
Right.
Because you haven't faced one in practice all year.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if they have one. We hope they do. I couldn't even tell you who the one was if they did right now.
No.
Defense is going to be an interesting conversation next week because we're going to be able to go over like 17 guys and be like, we'll see.
I mean, there's so many dudes. We might you'll have to make a spreadsheet for the practice reports every time you mention so and so's name.
Yeah.
I put like a line down or something because there's going to be so many new pieces, so many still probably a lot of mixing and matching before they truly settle into like, okay, this is our true like top 22 that we're going to look to roll into the season with. So yeah, there's a lot still to be determined on that side of the ball, and that will have a big bearing on what we think of the offense.
Right. Because we don't know. We don't know. Who are the pass rushers? Who are the corners? Who are, I think I actually feel pretty good about safety as a preview of next week in terms of like they have a bunch of, I think, capable dudes back there, but who becomes like the mainstays? Who become the kind of anchors of the defense from that position?
Corner, like linebacker. I think we have a pretty good idea of who the usual suspects will be there. Obviously, if Dante's health allows, we know what he is. But other than that, like let's roll the balls out and see who decides they want to play on Saturdays.
We'll see if they continue with this pod system, how long they continue with this pod system. If they do, I want to see some ones and twos, Dave. I want to see some ones and twos.
Yeah.
But you got anything else? Anything else going on in the did you see the number one women's softball player in the country transferred
from Stanford to Texas Tech got $1 million NIL deal.
$1 million NIL deal. Wow.
Good for her.
Have I told you what I heard on AJ DeBansa? Do you know who that is?
The basketball dude?
He's the number one player in the class of 2025. He's going to be an all-star. Like, he's a bad dude. Dude. I won't name names, but the dots are pretty easy to connect here. You got a 50-50 chance. He is attending a prep school. He's from the New England area, or he's been in the New England area. I don't know if he's born there or whatever. He is attending a prep school in Utah.
Okay.
The rumors on the circuit are that a certain university arranged $1.2 million for him to go to this prep school.
Okay.
And that university has $5 to $6 million on the table for him for 1 year at their school in NIL.
Nice. Nice.
I have had a couple conversations. Obviously, there's a lot going on with the open periods, and everybody's talking to everybody, sitting on baselines, sharing stories. Not all of this is completely vetted and verified yet.
Sure.
But I've heard like top 75 guys are getting double what they were getting a year ago. It just, from what the general consensus is, this is now year 3 of NIL. And the places that are good at it are now very stable and very much have an understanding of like this is what we need and this is what it's going to take.
Mhm.
And there's a bunch of places that have struggled with this process because they're maybe not, traditional basketball powers, but they
Yeah.
have an abundance of money where they thought that like as long as the money was even, they would be okay. They found out that the money even, the kids were going to still go to
Right.
the places with a better basketball history. So now they're coming over the top, these places that might not have the best basketball history, and saying, well, if we have to win the bidding war, we're just going to win the bidding war.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a wild, because the past 3 classes, maybe 4, have been pretty down to where like there wasn't a lot at the top, and in the middle, like we have not seen many top 50 guys contributing around the country in high major leagues. We have seen a guy here, a guy there, but like freshmen are not coming in and making the splash,
Right.
because the recruiting classes have not been great.
Mm-hmm.
Now this one is supposed to be a little bit of a step above what we've seen lately. So money is skyrocketing, and it's not going to be any different in the portal. That's why we're not going to get into much basketball tonight, but that's why this 2025 class is fascinating for Cincinnati and how they manage this, because I don't think you can spend a lot on high school recruiting this year, because you're probably going to have to replace a bunch next year. And
yeah, I mean,
you ain't winning with freshmen in this league.
From my seat, I hope they have to replace a bunch, because that means that the season was a success.
Well, just in general, you're going to have to replace a bunch. Like,
right, but I just mean even more so.
A very old roster.
Yeah.
Yeah. 26 class is very good as well. 25 is very good. 26 might be even better. So it's it's going to be really interesting, because the way that you manage the budget is going to determine the level of your roster. And in this league, you also have to do all that while making sure you have legitimate dudes.
Mm-hmm. It's in this league, it's very hard. I mean, I think Kansas is the perfect example of it last year.
Yeah.
It's just very hard, regardless of how highly they're ranked. It's very hard in this league to count on freshmen.
Well, I mean, the difference is if Kansas would have stayed healthy, we're having a different conversation.
Yeah, but the freshmen, when they needed to play, they just weren't ready to play. And those guys, those guys.
Well,
he wasn't ranked. He wasn't the one that was even ranked the highest, though. That's the thing.
They also swung and missed big time on the portal on the back end.
Yeah.
On the depth guys, they didn't hit on Timberlake. Like there was like 3 or 4 transfer guys they brought in that were just not good enough to play in this league. So maybe it was a case where, you know what, they spent a bunch of money on the top of the roster that created a situation where they had to neglect the back of the roster. And
yeah, I mean, their starting 5 was probably as good or better than anybody in the country.
Yeah. When they were healthy, their starting 5 was, other than UConn, probably the best.
Yeah.
That UConn starting 5 by the time they got to where they
by
were
the time.
was,
But yeah, going into the season, you're looking at KJ Adams and Hunter Dickinson and McCullers, and you're like, that's a pretty ridiculous group.
The point guard was the perfect point guard for that group.
For that, yeah, absolutely.
So
we've had a couple guys have kind of started to talk about setting up official visits. I mean, I assume that means that those are at or near the top of the targets for.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to the bottom of exactly what the board looks like right now, and the coaches are out through tomorrow for this NCAA academy that's in Rock Hill, South Carolina. I think Drew Adams is headed over to the FIBA under 18 European championships that he'll be able to be at later this week. So the picture is starting to get a little bit clearer from an evaluation standpoint. Now the staff late this week or next week, whatever, is going to have to sit down and start like making some decisions, because I know there are a bunch of guys that they're involved with and some that are in that list of like, okay, here's when I'm visiting, that decisions haven't been made on are they visiting or not. So there's still a lot of, and like I said, this is what I've been talking about for a while. This whole calendar is pushed back. These conversations I'm having right now are conversations I used to have at the end of May going into June. And now they're happening July going into August because of the transfer portal. Like, coaches just don't care about high school recruiting in April now. It's out. They don't care. They want nothing to do with it because they've got to get their transfer portal class for the upcoming season right. Then they'll worry about the high school class for the following season.
Yeah.
And that's all very logical, but I think, that there's a lot of people guessing on like what the recruiting boards look like right now going into this. That
are you saying for UC or just in general?
Just in general, like, okay, well, this guy's saying this and this guy's saying that. And remember, we're seeing a lot of these guys name like, I'm going to visit 7, 8, 9 schools.
What's his name? He said 9 OVs?
9 schools. Yeah, Davion Hanna, 9 schools. Because they lifted the five visit limit.
Right.
Now kids can visit anywhere they want. That is one of those, I talk about this all the time. This is new. So we have to see what the trends are. We have to see how this develops. My guess is, Dave, we don't see many of these kids taking 7, 8, 9 visits. Like, it just doesn't seem. I would take 20 of those mofos if they would allow me. Where are you going? I'm visiting. Okay, there are Power 4, so I'm visiting 5 schools from each conference just to make sure I've got a good feel for things, and then I might visit a couple, lower ones as well, as long as they're in a good location.
Yeah.
But over under 2.5 in 2025 class, I'm going to go 2. I'll go under. I don't think it's wise to spend the money there when you're going to have 5, 6, 7 spots that you're going to need to fill for that roster. Again, I point to Oklahoma State. They brought in 3 really talented freshmen, and Mike Boynton decided they were going to build around that and look at the long term, the big picture, and then Mike Boynton got fired. Go get players that can win now and worry about next year.
Yeah. I think, I could see 3, but that would mean that we're leaning more towards like the 6 or 7 available than the 5. I think if it's 5, then yeah, 2 seems for sure. The higher the number, maybe there is a 3rd, but yeah, I mean, I agree. You're just not like in the Big 12. Anything more than that, you just have a whole bunch of freshmen and sophomores. And
Dave, the other thing is like colleges are going to have to decide high major schools are going to have to decide what they're going to do on big men, because they're not ready when they come in as freshmen. Right. They are not ready. So most are going to turn to the portal.
I'm not sure unless kid was like as sure thing as you could be. And I had a.
But Dave, what does that create in the market? That means everybody is in the transfer portal
for a big,
looking for bigs. So then the price on bigs is going to skyrocket.
Right.
So getting a transfer portal big that's above replacement level, everybody's favorite baseball analytical term, above replacement level bigs are going to be,
Yeah.
So do you take the risk and bring in a developmental big, knowing that they might not stay, like they might not stick with you, unless you tell them straight up, like, look, I think it's going to be 2 years. Like year one, you're not going to play. But we have massive plans for you down the road. Here's your NIL money. We'll give you a little bit more next year. Like, come in and develop with us. That it's going to be a tricky decision, because I know all coaches are looking at this and going, this big guy that's not going to be good for a year or two wants $250,000. Do I want to give him that for a year that he's not going to do anything, in the hopes that it pays off and he stays? That's the caveat, in 2 to 3 years.
Mhm.
Good luck figuring that out. I'm glad I'm not a college basketball coach that has to navigate that decision-making process, because it does not sound easy at all, because it's a total crapshoot both ways. You go into the portal and you have to get a starting 5-man, and you come back with a slightly at or below average replacement type guy for $500,000 because the price got pushed up and everybody needs them. Oh boy. I know somewhere it happened last year. They ended up a little bit under 500.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. Take a guard, take a wing, and then kind of see where it goes from there. I think that's the best plan of action. Got anything else?
I don't think so.
There's the new scholarship limit stuff, but I think Aaron and I will probably touch on that on the nightcap, unless you got anything you want to touch on.
I don't have any idea what it is, so I can't even touch on it.
The number in football went up from 85 to 105.
105 scholarships?
Yep.
And then you can still have walk-ons, or is everyone just basically on scholarship now?
You can still have walk-ons, but the interesting thing, I think, is this is where I think this is
because there are 105 guys you want to give scholarships to.
So it allows you to give partials at any, like before basketball, it had to be a full, football, it had to be a full.
Right.
I think now what they're giving you is a chance to give your walk-on some money, some scholarship money. Doesn't necessarily have to be all of it, can't be all of it, whatever, as they move their way up, but like you can throw them a little bit of change. But you know what's going to happen? This is why there are scholarship limits that drop down to 85. Ohio State's going to want 105 scholarship players. And if you think it was hard recruiting Ohio before, wait till Ohio State gets to add 20 extra guys at the back end of that roster.
Yeah.
And then they get to punt the ones that they don't think are good enough every year as well. It's Aaron and I will get to it on the nightcap tonight, but it's an interesting decision. The schools wanted this. This is what the schools, it's part of the settlement and the lawsuit. So the House versus NCAA lawsuit. So we'll see. All right. Well, great to see you, my friend.
That's right. Thanks to Keegan for filling in for me last week.
Yeah. He did an adequate job.
He did a much better job than I did playing golf. So, it's it was the same event from when we did the podcast when we drew teams out of the hat.
Yeah.
When I was up in Springfield for my dad's member guest tournament, and this year I played golf like I had never played the sport before, so that was
like
cool.
You had never picked up a stick, huh?
Nope.
I was at Coldstream for my first time ever Monday.
Oh, how was that?
I just sat there. I didn't play. I hosted a radio show.
From Coldstream?
Yeah, the Jordan Cornette
okay.
charity event was there. So I
Speaking of Coldstream, we gotta get Doug before the summer's over. Coach Martin, where are you at? I need to see that practice facility and get out to Coldstream. I know you're listening.
He is somewhere. All right, let's wrap it up. Thanks to Turtles Brew, as always, and the Holy Grail. We will see you next time. I think we had a sponsor back next week, 2 weeks from now. Whatever. That's the BCJ podcast, brought to you by the Holy Grail, right here on BearcatJournal.com.